Hi!
Hello.
Today we are having discussions about energy with Joe Rolands. Welcome!
Thank you. Nice to be here. Nice to be with the viewers.
Yeah, so awesome that you were able to participate on this. So my name is Kaisa Koskinen, and you are actually husband of one of the VortexHealing teachers, Terry.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you about your process. Like, what has been your process? Because I know you are an advanced level student in VortexHealing. So how did you end up studying VortexHealing?
I was, as a young man, raised as a Catholic, a Christian, and my mother was very devout, and I became an altar boy at church, and went to a Catholic high school as well, and had some nice priests that opened our minds as young boys, an all-boy Catholic high school, but they were also rebels. They knew that there was more, and so they gave a little more instruction to make us question how systems are controlling. It was
Interesting, yeah.
It was in the 60s when advertising was blooming, and advertisers learned how to control people's minds. And they warned us about that. So it was during those rebel times, and I started questioning the Christian faith, and yoga teachers came into the Western society at Woodstock, the hippie concert. There was a yogi that was on stage, and I started looking at books about what is yoga and practicing myself.
In Woodstock?
I didn't.
Like on the ages, I'm like, did you go?
I didn't go, but I was going to other concerts, and I was following the music from there, and I was seeing the videos, the movies of Woodstock, and seeing the yogis up there. And there were quite a few different teachers coming around the Detroit area. I'm American and raised during that time of civil rights in the 60s, so there was a lot of rebelliousness and change happening. And so this practice of doing physical yoga postures led me to read that, oh, this is all for the purpose of meditation. And so then the question was, what is meditation?
What does it do?
What does it do? But the postures themselves, I remember practicing in my parents' home and being very interested in spending an hour and a half practicing, and at some point during the relaxations, almost feeling so relaxed that there was this, like an out of body, like I was hovering above my body a little bit. But of course I didn't know what was going on or anything about anything. So there was a need for me to search more about what is this yoga doing? What is it doing to the system, and what's the history of it?
Yeah, okay. So did that lead you then to, for example, study other energy modalities?
Yes, actually it wasn't so much me being led, it was one teacher named Paramahansa Yogananda, who was one of the first Indian masters to come to the United States to bridge Eastern spirituality into the West. That was his mission. He had traveled the United States looking for ripe souls, and he found one in Detroit. Well, not actually me.
Oh, it wasn't you. I thought it was you. Like, he had ripe enough.
Yogananda, I think, passed on in 1961.
Okay.
So I didn't have a chance to meet him or even
hear
him
so it was like
speak.
before. So it was
But I was so tired of living in the Motor City and living with parents and education, and I didn't really have a career. And so I was ready to go west, young man, to California.
Start new and fresh and
And on my journey to California, I was crashing, resting at my first leg of the journey took me to Davenport, Iowa, which was, it's about 5 or 8 hour drive from Detroit heading west. And I had met some chiropractic students that said, yes, you could crash at our place. And I was doing yoga in the morning, getting ready to drive another 8 hours and stretching out the body and all. And one of the chiropractic students handed me the autobiography of a yogi that was written by Yogananda in the morning.
Okay.
And that's how, it wasn't me looking, but it's how the divine
brought
found
you this.
me.
Yeah, okay. And then, you know, little time passed on. You were a teacher, right? Like in your occupation.
I didn't even know that. Yes, my occupation was. Later on in the 70s, I realized that I would be good with children and became a middle school teacher.
And then, how did you, by the way, end up meeting Terry? That's always interesting. Because that had some divine interference in that, didn't it?
Oh, definitely. I mean, you know, the divine. If your heart is open and you're looking, you're on a quest, you know, and you're not just following the regular systems. And you know there's more. The divine, in my case, is definitely leading me. So it wasn't meant for me to stay in California. My father retired. His pension wasn't honored. He was a nervous wreck. I would call home. Mother said, no, things aren't good. And so I figured, all right, I should be home, you know, helping out, even though...
So going back to Detroit.
Yes. So I went back to Detroit, and I was reading this autobiography. I mean, it would take me, I would read a couple pages, and it's like, whoa, what is, you know, it would take me time to digest it. So it took me actually 6 months to read the book. And when I got home, I learned that one of Yogananda found a ripe soul in Detroit called Oliver Black.
Okay.
And he was actually a well-to-do auto parts manufacturer that supported the Art Institute in Detroit. And he was allowed to teach a Sunday service in Detroit.
Okay.
And in 1974, I learned this, that he was the oldest living disciple of Yogananda. Yogananda actually found his name in a phone book in Toledo. Divine Mother was guiding. And Oliver Black would tell us these stories.
About
us
that.
hippies, us young people who were rebellious, and he was trying to like get us stable. And you know, we had been opening our minds with mind expanding, different mind expanding drugs, but it's always, before doing that, it's always good that you have some foundation. And so Oliver Black, who was the oldest living disciple of Yogananda, had all of us truth seekers that he was trying to say, okay, you know, get us to be respectful and study and practice on a meditation on a regular basis. So I was very lucky to
meet him, like have him
teaching there. Now he passed away, to answer your question, how did I meet Terry? He passed away in the late 80s. And many of us never realized what a spiritual father he had been to us, and
until he passed.
And we were crushed, and we're like, wow, how can we replace? Not that you can replace him, but is there someone like him that can continue?
That you could go in like with.
And we started. That's when I started learning the word awake. Is there another awake? Because Oliver Black, what is awakening? So awakening is breaking through certain veils of conditioning that help us realize that deep peace and connection with all that is, that we call the divine. So that's when I found there was another man that was awake, and a few of the truth seekers from this self-realization group were going to see this other man named Peter Ragnar, who was actually a Finnish man.
Really?
Yes.
I'm Finnish.
And Peter, I would drive down with some other friends.
So this all happened in Detroit?
Well, actually, Peter lived in Tennessee. And he would do weekend seminars, you know, like 4-day seminars. So, you know, we'd go down, and a number of people would go down, and there was one friend from Detroit or Toronto. A lot of people would come from Toronto for the self-realization services. And on the way down, this one woman knew of Terry, who was doing treatments,
VortexHealing
treatments
Yeah.
in a suburb of Detroit, which was about 45 minutes away from me.
Yeah.
I lived on the east side of Detroit.
Yeah.
So I decided to have a treatment with Terry, and the first treatment was so amazing and so nice.
So you felt like shifts or something happening in you.
Yeah, I was very impressed. I knew that it, would be a two-way street. I mean, everything is always a two-way street with practitioners. The one that comes also brings. Because all of us.
We affect, like both affect the healing. The healer and the who's getting healed. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's how I met Terry. And after a while, I was at the end of my teaching career and stressed out, as most teachers are, overwhelmed and overloaded with the amount of students and the curriculum expanding and the kids not being able to be children and play, overloaded with the mental work that needed to be done. And so I was going every Friday for a session. And before I would want to get in my car to drive home, I wanted to integrate the session because it really works in your system. And so I wanted to take a walk. And after the session, Terry and I would take a walk, maybe go have something to eat. And that's how our
how beautiful.
Yeah, very nice.
Like all that, going to California, meeting all these gurus in a way, and all these, like, your circle came then. You heard about there's this lady, and then I want to receive a healing, and then you start to go and take healings. And that's also how your Vortex Healing study, like, I guess after some time you got interested about starting to do, studying it.
Yeah, I wanted to finish my teaching career. I wanted to, be clear of that because it was very stressful. Terry would help me. We lived together a time before we married, and Terry would help me after school. I'd come home and say, what a stressful day. And she would, give me some pointers of how to help clear the classroom with some of the tools, even before I had Vortex, because I was a yoga student, and I had, certain parts of my being, like all of us have, these energies to use, energies that come from our hands. When we're feeling ill, we put our hands on our head. And so Vortex just amplifies that.
All that.
And she was help guiding me of how to use my natural energies to finish my teaching career. And then I said, okay, I'll start taking the Vortex classes once I finish.
Where's the next one?
Yeah, and I was free then to not just wait for them to come to the United States. I mean, we had to travel to Boston, and I forget, to New York was the Maggie Institute was the first class we took with the founder, Rick Weinman. And then I was free, and I always would travel because I was a social studies teacher. So Terry would travel with me, and we took a course with another teacher in Holland. So I didn't have to wait. So I progressed quite quick. Because I didn't have the restrictions with job and money, and Terry retook all the classes with me.
That was awesome.
It was a beautiful
nice experience.
To have that company,
For you both. All right, that was super interesting to hear about your story, because we all have a different paths how we find Vortex Healing when we hear about it. Maybe when we hear about a healer. So that's beautiful.
And I hope everyone here understands that we're all unique, and we all have unique skills as well, and our timing is perfect. It's interesting, and it's very nice to be able to share it with you.
Thank you so much, Joe, that you joined.
Thank you, Kaiser.
All right, bye.